Welcome to the Dietitian Side Hustle podcast. My name is Katie Dodd. I am a nutrition entrepreneur, but here's the catch. I have a full-time traditional dietitian job. My entrepreneurial endeavors are my side hustle. I have been making six figures through my job and side hustle, doing things that I love. If I can do it, you can too. This podcast is for dietitians, interns, and students who want to be inspired to start or perfect the side hustle of their dreams. Let's do this. Hi guys, welcome to the fourth episode of the Dietitian Side Hustle podcast. Today, we are going to talk about getting paid to write. So I figured I've talked about, what is a side hustle? What is a dietitian side hustle? How to get started? So I figured now is about the right time to talk about an actual side hustle example. So I wanted to start with writing because it is my favorite and my first side hustle love. So getting paid to write, for me, it's a pretty sweet gig. If you think about when you were a student in school, how much did you write? You wrote a lot. If you went to grad school, 50% of dietitians did, you wrote a thesis, a doctorate. So, you did all that work for free. I mean, it was to get your degree, but really it was for free. And essentially you are a professional writer. I mean, if you wrote a thesis or a doctorate, a lot of people get those published, So to transition from being someone who's a student and you are writing for free to being a dietitian and getting paid to write, I mean, that is so cool that someone's paying you to do these things that you've done for free for years to get your degree. So the question is freelance writing right for you? So I would ask yourself a couple of questions. They're kind of basic, but worth asking. Is writing something that you are good at? I think a lot of us can reflect and say, I'm just not too good at this. This isn't my strong suit. And that's okay. Maybe you're more set for being a podcaster or doing something else. So are you good at writing? And then do you enjoy it? Maybe you're good at it, but you don't like it. I've said over and over again that I really believe that a dietitian side hustle should be something you enjoy. So if you don't enjoy writing, maybe it's not for you. But let's dig a little bit more into writing as a dietitian. So first I wanted to share my experience. Really my first side hustle was writing, and it was writing for Nutrition Dimensions. Nutrition Dimensions is a continuing education company for dietitians. So they started with, mail order, things they'd mail to dietitians, and you would order your different continuing education topic. But now it's all online, of course, because that's the day and age we're in. So essentially, they are articles that dietitians read to learn about a topic. Maybe you want to learn a little bit more about enteral nutrition. So you read this article, maybe it's 1 CPEU, maybe it's a 10 CPEU article. And when you're done, you take a quiz, you get your CEs that you need as a dietitian, and you also learn a lot in the process. So my first side hustle was working for Nutrition Dimensions, and I was updating papers. So what that means is with the continuing education papers, they're only good for 3 years. Every 3 years they have to be updated, which means you pull out all the old science, add in the new science, because we know the field of nutrition changes. So what I was doing was content editing. I was updating the papers. I was doing a lot of things for them, and it was on a contract basis where, here's what we have for you to update or to write. Here's how much we'll pay you. Here's the due date. So that was my first side gig, was doing writing with Nutrition Dimensions. I also have written a magazine article for Today's Dietitian, and more recently this year I learned about a website called Upwork. That's UPWORK. It's kind of one word all squished together. And Upwork is a place where you can create a profile as a writer, but then also browse different jobs available for writing. There's a whole variety out there. I will say some are totally bogus. They pretty much want you to write for free, but there's also a lot of really legit writing opportunities that you can get. Upwork does take a fee. I think they take 20% until you've been working with the same client and you've made $500, then I think they only take 10%. So they do take money, but at the same time, they're also connecting you with people that you might not have been connected to otherwise. So with Upwork, I signed up for that in spring of this year, and I have been blogging for a company on a monthly basis. I have dabbled in copywriting. I did one copywriting gig, and then I also have written 2 blogs for another company. So Upwork has really turned out to be a good opportunity for me. And then I also I'm currently working on a contract with Meals on Wheels of America, their National Resource Center on Nutrition and Aging. I'm writing 6 500-word papers on different nutrients for older adults. So that's something I'm doing more with my geriatric dietitian hat. So how did these opportunities happen? How did I find these? Some of it was actually kind of accidental. My first side gig was accidental. How I got my gig with Nutrition Dimensions was I happened to sit next to someone on a plane. I was coming back from Quincy in Texas. I met a dietitian from the same town as me when I was on the expo floor, but at Quincy you meet so many dietitians, I forgot completely until it was time to fly home, and I see this woman, I'm like, she looks so familiar, and we ended up sitting next to each other. I found out she owned, at the time, Nutrition Dimensions, and I was like, oh gosh, I want to be a writer, and so I exchanged information with her and ended up getting this amazing opportunity and really developed a friendship with her in the process. So I sat next to someone on a plane. That's how I got my first side gig. How I got my magazine article done was I did a webinar, and after I did that webinar, the editor of Today's Dietitian sent me an email asking if I would write a paper on the same topic, and she was offering to pay me because I guess at the time I didn't really realize how many opportunities there were for dietitians to get paid to write, and I was so excited to get published in Today's Dietitian. I mean, gosh, I probably would have done it for free. So for them to actually pay me was amazing. And then my more recent gigs with Upwork, really how I got those, I just applied for Upwork. I looked for gigs and I applied for those gigs. And then the current contract I'm working on with the Meals on Wheels of America really came about through the work I'm doing with the geriatric dietitian. It really lined up with that work I'm doing on the side. So that's my experience with freelance writing. So I want to talk to you now about what are different opportunities. So I just listed some of the ones that I do. So again, creating or updating continuing education. Again, these need to be updated every 3 years. Nutrition Dimensions is one example. Becky Dorner and Associates. There's so many different companies out there that offer continuing education for dietitians, and knowing that these CEs need to be updated every 3 years, and they're looking for experts in different areas. So it's not always the person who owns the company who's updating everything. They're hiring out and contracting out for dietitians who are in the specialty area to really provide the best service to their customers. Other writing opportunities, you can write a book. You can pitch a company for maybe a book you want to write, or you could self-publish these days. You can either write a hard copy book, an ebook, or both. You can write for a magazine. Today's Dietitian is one opportunity, but there are all kinds of magazines that you can write for. I love, looking through magazines and seeing, oh, this was written by a dietitian. So really any magazine out there you can write for. You can write blog posts. This has really become my favorite because I like the style of writing blog posts. It's more conversational, less formal. So I've really enjoyed that. Actually, it's my favorite writing. You can write papers for organizations or brands. They could be like professional, technical white papers. You can do copywriting, which is where you are essentially... I'm trying to think of the best way to explain it. I think I explained it on another episode, so I hope I don't butcher it this time, but essentially it's writing the description of a product, a service. For example, the copywriting I did was with a fiber supplement that is being sold on Amazon. So I wrote the copy, I wrote the description. So when you click on that link, you read all the information about here's the product, here's what's in it, here's the benefits, here's why you should buy this product. That's copywriting. You can also write social media posts for brands or different organizations. And really, writing is limitless. If you think about it, anything with words that you are reading, someone wrote that. And if someone wrote that, there's probably opportunity for you to write that and get paid to write it. So how do you find those opportunities? Well, a big one for me that was really helpful starting out new was Upwork. Again, that is UPWORK, Upwork. And I actually, after I signed up, I had my first gig landed within a week. And again, that first one happened to be really amazing, and I'm still working with that company. You can go on to different websites and you can find contact information, send them a pitch. Maybe you could look for posted opportunities. So I mentioned those continuing education websites. You can go on those and search around. Do they have like a section that says write for us? You can go on a magazine's website and again look for opportunities write with us or write for us. You can also network, asking around, asking in Facebook groups. And probably the best thing, though, that you can do is to learn from the dietitian pros. There's a Facebook community called RDs Who Write. Anna runs that page, and she is phenomenal. Her website is www.anareisdorf.com. And Anna is a writing pro. She offers a course for freelance writing for the RD. And she also has a guide, your guide to freelance writing as an RDN. And in that guide, I think it's like $27, super affordable. She talks all about like, what should you consider before you write? What are the types of writing available for an RDN? Where to look for those jobs, tips for applying, how to price your works, and some of her resources for getting started. And she does this full time and she is a total pro. So I definitely recommend checking out her website and resources, and you could also find the link to her website under my resource page at dietitiansidehustle.com. So the next question people often have about writing is, how much does it pay? So I think that's really up to you, or maybe if you're writing for a company, it might be set by the company. Like, for example, if you are maybe writing a magazine article, oftentimes they'll have like a flat fee, like, $500 for this article of this many words. So it depends. I would say from what I've learned, again, I'm not the pro in this, but just from my experience, is that the industry standard is 10 cents to $1 per word. So again, that's per word. I remember I was so excited the first writing gig that I had where I was actually doing the contract writing with Upwork, and my first gig was 10 cents a word. And I'm like, oh, that sentence was $1. I was so excited to actually get paid. So how you charge can be based on the article or the word count. So maybe I'm going to write an article between 800 and 1,000 words, and this is how much I'm going to charge, like a flat rate. Or it can be where you charge per word. I have done both. So an example of the amount of money that you can make, I would definitely advise against taking less than 10 cents a word. I think you should start with at least 10 cents per word. I have made, my first gig was 10 cents a word. I've done some for 25 cents a word and also 75 cents per word. And I've only been doing the freelance writing, where I've been writing per word, not the contracted writing I've done before, but I've only been doing this for about 9 months. So, yeah. So why so much? I think the RD has value. We know that the registered dietitian nutritionist is the nutrition expert. Anyone can write an article, and there's a lot of articles online that are written by, the layperson. But the dietitian is the nutrition expert. We bring authority, accuracy, reliability, especially if you have a niche. As a geriatric dietitian, I'm writing in very specific areas, and because this is the area I work in, it's also really easy for me to write because, geriatrics is what I do every day. So writing articles is just like, I could do it in my sleep. So yeah, the dietitian is the nutrition expert, and there are people looking for nutrition experts to write their articles, their copy, all the things they write. So also keep in mind that there's room for all of us. I always tell people to sign up for Upwork. Do I feel like, does that take away my opportunities if all these other people are now applying to Upwork gigs? I'd say no, there is room for all of us, and I think we need more dietitians at the table writing. So that's my little pitch there. So I'm going to wrap it up now and talk about your action items. If you are a writer, or maybe you want to be a side hustler as a writer, there's 3 things I want you to do. The first thing I want you to do is to join the Facebook group RDs Who Write. Again, that group is gold. You can ask questions. You will learn so much. So if you are a dietitian who writes, you need to be in that Facebook group. Again, you can go to my website, dietitiansidehustle.com, and it's on my resource page. Or you can just search RDs Who Write on Facebook. The next thing I want you to do is to brainstorm areas where you want to write. Maybe that's, I want to write in a magazine. I want to write for blogs. I want to write a book. So brainstorm, what do you want to write? And the last thing is to commit to starting this week. Maybe that's signing up for Upwork. Maybe that's sending your first email pitch. But commit to do it and start. So, get started, dive in, and be sure to let me know what successes you have along the way. Thanks, guys. Bye.